So, let's talk about Sir Isaac Newton. We all think we know the story, right? The apple, gravity, the brilliant scientist. But we're about to peel back the layers on a man who was way more complex and honestly, way more fascinating than the myth.
And this really gets to the heart of it. What if the guy who basically invented modern science, the ultimate symbol of logic and reason, was also living a double life?
I mean, we all know this picture. The apple falls, a light bulb goes off in his head, and bam, gravity. It's a neat, tidy little story. But here's the thing, that story is just page 1. The real story is so much stranger.
Okay, so first, let's start with the Newton we all learned about in school, the absolute giant of a genius who literally rewrote the rules of the universe. This right here, this is the main event, the Principia. It's not an exaggeration to say this might be the most important scientific book ever written. This is where Newton gives us the mathematical language to describe how everything moves, from a cannonball to a planet. It was a complete game changer.
And this was his revolutionary idea. See, before Newton, people thought there was one set of rules for things on Earth, and a completely different set of rules for the heavens. Newton just blew that idea apart. He said, nope, the little tug that pulls an apple to the ground is the exact same force that's swinging the moon around the Earth. I mean, the sheer scope of that idea is just breathtaking.
And the guy was just relentless. It wasn't just one big idea. He also built the first working reflecting telescope. He gave us the 3 laws of motion, which are still fundamental today. He proved that ordinary white light is actually made up of all the colors of the rainbow. Oh, and in his spare time, he developed calculus. Any one of those would make you a legend. He did them all.
And this is the image he wanted the world to see. You know, the humble, logical scholar, just building on what came before. And it's a beautiful quote, but it's also a fantastic mask. It hides so much of who he really was. And this is where our story takes a very sharp turn.
All right, so let's leave the quiet halls of the university and head out into the gritty, dangerous streets of 17th century London. Because Isaac Newton had a surprising side hustle. He was a detective, and a ruthless one at that.
To get why this was so important, you have to understand the mess England was in. When Newton took over as warden of the Royal Mint, a staggering 1 in every 5 coins in circulation was a fake. The entire economy was on the brink of total collapse.
And this is where we see that analytical mind applied in a totally different way. This was not some cushy desk job. Newton got his hands dirty. He went undercover himself, hanging out in sketchy bars to gather intel. He personally carried out over 100 intense interrogations. And he didn't just hand the cases off, he saw them through the courts himself.
And the results? He was terrifyingly good at his job. He successfully prosecuted 28 of the country's most wanted counterfeiters. And the punishment for this crime wasn't a slap on the wrist. It was to be hanged, drawn, and quartered, one of the most brutal executions imaginable. This was not a man you wanted to mess with.
But believe it or not, his secret life as a crime fighter isn't even the deepest secret. To find that, we have to leave his public work behind entirely and go into his private world, a world he kept hidden from almost everyone.
This quote just says it all. It comes from the famous economist John Maynard Keynes, who, decades after Newton's death, bought up his private papers, and as he started reading them, he realized that the man the world thought it knew, well, that wasn't the real Newton at all.
And this comparison just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the public, celebrated scientist, the Principia, the laws of motion, the very foundations of modern physics. And on the other side, his secret studies, obsessive research into alchemy, trying to find the philosopher's stone, trying to decode prophecies in the Bible, and a very radical, very heretical theology that could have destroyed his career.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 1 million. Newton wrote over 1 million words on the subject of alchemy. This wasn't a casual hobby. This was a lifelong, all-consuming quest. He thought it was a key to understanding the hidden workings of God and nature.
And his religious beliefs were just as radical, and honestly, way more dangerous. He came to believe that worshiping Christ as part of a holy trinity was a form of idolatry, a terrible sin. Now, in his day, this wasn't just an unpopular opinion. This was a belief that could get you fired, ostracized, or much, much worse. So he kept it a secret his entire life. So, how do we put all these pieces together? The scientist, the detective, the magician. Was this man just a walking contradiction? Or was there something bigger going on in that incredible mind?
And here's the thing that's so hard for us to grasp today. For Newton, there was no contradiction. There was no firewall between these different worlds. Science, alchemy, theology, they were all just different paths leading to the same destination, understanding the mind of God. He believed the universe was a divinely created system, and he was going to use every tool he had to try and figure it out.
And after a lifetime of completely changing science, hunting down criminals, and chasing ancient secrets, this was his own takeaway. It's a statement of just profound humility. For all his incredible intellect, he saw his own huge achievements as nothing more than finding a few pretty shells on the beach, while the entire, vast ocean of truth was still out there, waiting.
And that leaves us with this final thought. Newton's real story shows that the neat, simple myths we build around our heroes often hide a much more complicated and much more fascinating truth. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who else out there had secret lives that we know absolutely nothing about?